Hello, and welcome back to Wild Sanative. In the last episode, we talked about the many faces of grief. We explored how grief is not just limited to the loss of a loved one. It could also arise from the loss of relationships, dreams, homes, health, identity, and the expectations we carry about how life is supposed to unfold. Today, I want to continue that conversation by exploring something equally important. How do we heal? Because understanding grief is only a part of the journey. Healing is the path that follows, and healing requires something that is often overlooked. It requires willingness. Many of us want the pain to stop. We want relief, we want peace, we want to feel like ourselves again. But healing is not always comfortable. Healing often asks us to sit with the things we would rather avoid. It asks us to be honest about what hurts. It asks us to examine our thoughts, our emotions, our beliefs, and sometimes even the stories we have been telling ourselves. Healing asks us to participate, and participation requires willingness. Willingness does not mean forcing ourselves to feel better. It does not mean pretending to be positive. It means becoming willing to meet ourselves where we are. It means allowing what is present to be acknowledged instead of immediately judged, suppressed, or pushed away. Sometimes healing begins when we stop fighting our own inner experience long enough to listen to it. For me, healing was never a straight line. After losing my son and later experiencing a significant loss through my life, I moved through many different stages of grief. There were moments of denial, moments of anger, moments of bargaining, moments of profound sadness, and moments of acceptance. And sometimes I experienced several of those stages all within the same week. What I eventually learned is that healing is not about reaching a final destination where grief disappears. Healing is learning how to move through grief with greater awareness, compassion, and understanding each time it appears. It is learning that pain can be healed without becoming the whole of who we are. It is learning that we can feel sorrow and still remain connected to ourselves. Even in the most difficult moments, there can be a small space within us that simply notices. A breath beneath the heaviness, a pause beneath the reaction, a quiet place that does not ask us to deny the pain, but helps us stay present within it. One of the things I think we talk about far too little is what happens when multiple people are grieving the same loss. Because while people may share a loss, they do not necessarily share the same grief. Everyone had a different relationship with the person who passed away. Everyone carries different memories, different wounds, different fears, different regrets, different levels of understanding. One person may want to talk about the loss constantly. Another may avoid the subject completely. One person may cry openly. Another may become silent. One person may seek support, and another may isolate themselves. One person may become reflective, and another may become angry. And when these different grief responses collide, misunderstandings often occur. People begin judging each other, questioning each other's motives, comparing each other's pain, assuming their way of grieving is the correct way. But grief is deeply personal, and one of the greatest lessons I've learned was this: different doesn't mean wrong. Not everyone heals the way we do. Not everyone processes pain the same way or at the same pace. Not everyone is standing at the same place on the path. Healing asks us to develop discernment. Discernment helps us recognize what belongs to us and what belongs to someone else. It helps us care without taking over. It helps us remain compassionate without abandoning our own boundaries. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is allow people to have their own experience while continuing to honor our own. And that does not mean accepting harmful behavior. It does not mean abandoning healthy boundaries. It means learning the difference between compassion and control. We cannot heal someone else's grief for them. We can support them, we can love them, we can pray for them, we can sit beside them, but ultimately each person must choose whether they are willing to participate in their own healing. For me, one of the most important tools during grief was journaling. There were many days when I did not know how to express what I was feeling. My thoughts felt tangled, my emotions felt overwhelming, but when I sat down and wrote, something began to shift. The pages became a safe place for my grief to speak. Sometimes I wrote through tears, through anger, through confusion, and sometimes I discovered truths hiding beneath emotions I did not fully understand. Journaling helped me witness my own healing process. It allowed me to see the patterns, it helped me recognize growth, and it gave me my grief somewhere to put it. I had somewhere for my grief to go. And when we write honestly, we create space between what we feel and how we respond. We can notice a thought without immediately believing it. We can feel an emotion without making it our identity. And we can say grief is here instead of grief is all that I am. The small shift creates space, and space creates choice. Another important part of my healing journey was advocacy. After my son passed away, I found purpose in helping others. Advocacy did not move my grief. It did not erase my pain, but it gave that pain a direction. It allowed my love for my son to continue expressing itself through action. It transformed some of my heartbreak into service. And in many ways, it became a part of my healing. Healing does not require us to make loss acceptable. It does not ask us to pretend something painful was meant to happen, but it can help us bring love, pain, meaning, and action into a more coherent relationship. Sometimes love needs movement, sometimes grief needs expression, and sometimes pain becomes more bearable when it is given a purpose that honors what mattered. I also immersed myself in teachings that resonated deeply with me. The philosophies of healing that I learned from spiritual teachers became anchors during some of the most difficult seasons of my life. They challenged me to look within. They encouraged me to remain heart-centered. They taught me to become more aware of my thoughts, my emotions, and my reactions. They reminded me that healing was not about becoming someone else. It was about returning to my authentic, true self beneath the pain. Not returning to the person I was before the loss. Loss changes us, but beneath the changes, there is still a deeper truth, a capacity for presence, a capacity for honesty, a capacity for love, a capacity to remain connected to life even while carrying sorrow. One practice that became especially important was self-observation, learning to pause. Learning to ask myself difficult questions. Am I responding from fear? Am I responding from anger? Am I responding from my wounded self? Or am I responding from my heart? And another question became equally important. What was the most grounded and compassionate choice available to me in this moment? Not the perfect choice, not the choice that makes the pain disappear, just the choice that creates a little more truth, a little more steadiness and understanding. This kind of self-awareness did not happen overnight. It continues to be a practice, but over time it helped me make choices that were aligned with healing rather than reaction. Because grief has a way of amplifying emotions. And when we are hurting, those emotions can easily lead us into decisions that create more suffering for ourselves and for others. Self-observation creates space between the feeling and the reaction, space between the wound and the choice, space between the old story and the next step. And sometimes that space is where healing begins. There is wisdom in the pause. A pause does not mean we are avoiding what we feel. It means we are giving ourselves enough room to respond consciously. Sometimes that pause lasts only seconds, one breath before the next word, one moment before the next decision, but even a brief moment of stillness can interrupt a painful cycle. It can return us to a choice. It can remind us that we do not have to solve everything all at once. I have also learned that healing requires patience. We live in a world that often expects people to move on quickly, to get over it, to be strong, to return to quote-unquote normal. But grief does not operate on a schedule. Healing unfolds in its own time. Some wounds take years to understand. Some lessons reveal themselves slowly, and some forms of acceptance arrive one small piece at a time. And there's no shame in that. Healing is not a race. There is no prize for arriving first. There is only the invitation to keep showing up for yourself with honesty and compassion. Healing cannot be forced, but we create conditions that help it unfold. Safety, presence, truth, compassion, discernment, rest, support, and the willingness to remain within ourselves. The truth is, the path towards wholeness is often uncomfortable. It asks us to face things we would rather avoid. It asks us to release what no longer serves us, and it asks us to forgive, to trust, to surrender, to grow. And growth is rarely comfortable. It's actually very uncomfortable sometimes. But I have found that the discomfort of healing is often far lighter than the suffering that comes from continually resisting what is being asked of us to be felt. Healing does not mean forgetting. It does not mean the loss stops mattering. It does not mean the love disappears. It means learning how to carry what happened without allowing it to carry every part of us. It means learning how to honor our pain while continuing to live. It means allowing grief to become wisdom instead of bitterness, compassion instead of resentment, understanding instead of judgment, and presence instead of self-abandonment. And perhaps that is the one greatest gift of grief can offer. Not because we wanted the loss, not because the pain was necessary, but because what we learn while moving through grief can transform us. It can deepen us. It can make us more honest. It can teach us what truly matters. It can bring us to a more conscious relationship with ourselves and with life. So whatever you are healing on in your journey, I invite you to ask yourself one simple question. Am I willing? Am I willing to feel what needs to be felt? Am I willing to learn what needs to be learned? Am I willing to release the belief that healing must look a certain way? Am I willing to learn to return to my breath, my body, and this moment? Am I willing to take one small step toward healing today? You may want to pause here and place one hand over your heart and one over your abdomen. Take in a slow breath, and then let the exhale be a little bit longer. Do not ask yourself to fix the grief. Simply notice what is there and quietly say, I am willing to stay within myself. That is enough for this moment, because healing rarely happens all at once. It happens one choice at a time, one moment at a time, one breath at a time. And each step forward, no matter how small, matters. You do not need to have all the answers. You only need to have enough presence to recognize the next honest step. Thank you for joining me in the willingness to heal. May you find the courage to face what hurts. May you find the wisdom to honor your own path. And may you offer yourself the same compassion you would offer to someone you love. May you remember the quiet center within you, and even when grief feels loud. And may you trust that healing does not require you to abandon your loss, your love, or yourself. And until next time, be gentle with yourself.